3 stories. 9 hikers ripped from their tent. A family butchered on their own farm. Twin sisters so connected, one had to die so the other could live. These aren't myths. They happen, and they've never been explained. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. In 1959, 9 hikers went missing in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia, experienced, young, and ready for any adventure that came their way. What search teams found weeks later is still one of the most disturbing mysteries in modern history. A tent ripped open from the inside. Bodies lay scattered in the snow, some barely dressed, some with crushed bones. One with her tongue missing. No sign of an enemy. No sign of a struggle. Just silence. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident. The expedition was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old adventurer. He and his group were experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. They planned a 190-mile trek through the Ural Mountains to earn a high-level hiking certification. They started on January 27, 1959. Just one day in, one of the 10, Yuri had to turn back due to illness. It probably saved his life. The remaining 9 pushed forward into the wilderness. None of them came back. On February 1st, they set up camp on the slope of a mountain called Kholat Syakwa. Local Mansi people called it Dead Mountain. The weather had turned brutal. Temperatures were below -30 degrees Celsius. Visibility was almost nothing. For some reason, they pitched their tent out in the open, instead of finding shelter in the woods nearby. That night, something went very wrong. All 9 hikers ran from the tent, some barefoot, some only in socks, into the freezing dark. When they didn't return, search teams were sent out. What they found was terrifying. The tent was half buried in snow, slashed open from the inside. Not ripped, cut. Their footprints led away in a calm, organized line. Not running. No signs of struggle. 2 bodies were found under a tree, stripped to their underwear. Their hands were burned, likely from trying to build a fire. 3 more bodies were found in between the tree and the tent, like they were trying to crawl back. The final 4 were found 2 months later, buried under snow in a nearby ravine. These weren't simple hypothermia cases. These were traumatic injuries. 1 had a crushed skull. 2 had shattered ribs. 1 woman, Ludmila Dubanina, was missing her eyes and her tongue. And the strangest part? There was no external bruising, no cuts, no scrapes. It was like they'd been crushed by something with massive pressure, but invisible force. An official Soviet investigation listed the cause of death as an unknown compelling force, which explains nothing. But over the years, theories have piled up. Avalanche. Some say they heard rumbling and panicked, running from the tent. But many experts argue the injuries don't match avalanche trauma. Plus, the tent was still standing. Military experiment. Some believe the hikers stumbled into secret Soviet weapons testing. Radioactivity was reportedly found on some clothing. A rare weather phenomenon may have created low-frequency sound waves that triggered panic and disorientation. Something else. From paranormal forces to a Yeti to alien involvement. The lack of clear evidence has fueled decades of speculation. And while these sound far-fetched, remember, something terrified 9 trained hikers so badly that they ran half-naked into -30 temperatures and never came back. In 2019, the case was officially reopened. Again, they ruled it was an avalanche. But many forensic experts still aren't convinced. Modern tech has recreated the scene simulations, drone scans, avalanche models. Some evidence lines up, but the strangest injuries still have no clear explanation. We still don't know why cut open the tent from the inside. Why not grab their clothes before fleeing? Why were some of them wearing each other's clothing? Over 60 years later, we're still searching for answers. The Dyatlov Pass Incident isn't just an unsolved mystery. It's a real-life horror story. One where every theory makes the facts even more disturbing. No survivors. No confessions. Just a cut tent, frozen footprints, and 9 lives lost to something no one has ever fully explained. The Hinterkaifeck murders in 1922. On a small farmstead in rural Germany, 6 people were murdered in one of the most chilling and unsolved cases in European history. They lived in near isolation. They died under mysterious and brutal circumstances. And what happened in the days leading up to their deaths makes this story feel less like a crime and more like a nightmare. This is the Hinterkaifeck murders. The farm was located about 70 kilometers north of Munich. In a place so remote, it didn't even have a proper name, just Hinterkaifeck, meaning behind key. It was home to Andreas Gruber, his wife Giselia, their widowed daughter Victoria, her 2 children, and their housekeeper. 6 people. And someone killed all of them with a pickaxe. It happened on the night of March 31st, 1922. But things started getting strange days before. Andreas, the patriarch, had told neighbors that he'd noticed footprints in the snow leading up to the house from the forest. But there were no footprints leading away. He also heard footsteps in the attic. He found a newspaper on his porch that no one in the family recognized. The house keys vanished. He never reported it to the police. Then their maid suddenly quit, saying the house felt haunted. They hired a new maid. The next day, the murders happened. One by one, the family was lured out to the barn, probably by sound or noise, and killed with repeated blows from a hand tool. The killer then entered the house and murdered the remaining family members, including the 2-year-old boy and the new maid. But what truly disturbed investigators was what happened after the murders. Someone stayed in the house. Neighbors said smoke was seen rising from the chimney days after the killings. The animals had been fed. Meals had been eaten. Beds had been slept in. The killer or killers had lived among the corpses for days. Police arrived nearly a week later. Inside, they found the bodies, the murder weapon, and very few answers. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing of value was stolen. The family dog was unharmed, and there was no clear motive. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some believed Victoria's dead husband hadn't died in the war as reported, and had come back for revenge. Others suspected Andreas himself was involved in something darker. There were whispers about incest, money, secrets. The only surviving relative, Victoria's daughter, was found in bed, her face bruised and hair torn out. She had likely lived for hours or even days after the attack. Despite questioning over 100 people, the case went cold. The heads of the victims were removed for forensic analysis and were lost during World War II. To this day, they've never been recovered. No arrests were ever made. No motive was confirmed. Just 6 brutal murders, and the sense that whoever did it had watched them, stalked them, and waited. Over a century later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's most terrifying unsolved crimes. The house was demolished a year later. Nothing stands there now, just a memorial cross and a patch of empty land, a farm in the middle of nowhere. A family that sensed something was wrong, and a killer who waited in the attic. The silent twins June and Jennifer Gibbons didn't speak to anyone. Not their teachers, not their classmates, not even their parents. Not really. They only spoke to each other. Born in 1963, identical twins June and Jennifer were inseparable and deeply disturbed. What started as silent rebellion turned into something darker, obsession, isolation, violence, and finally, death. This is the terrifying true story of the silent twins. June and Jennifer were born in Barbados and raised in Wales. From an early age, they were different. They spoke in a private language, rapid, slurred, and unintelligible to everyone but themselves. At home, they were silent. At school, they were bullied. So they withdrew from everyone except each other. Psychologists now believe the girls developed an extreme form of selective mutism, where they just wouldn't speak at all, combined with cryptophagia, a secret language between twins. But this wasn't just childhood imagination. Their bond was obsessive, almost parasitic. They mirrored each other's movements perfectly. They refused to speak unless both agreed. If one twin wanted to eat, the other had to eat too. If one stopped breathing, the other would hold her breath. As they got older, their behavior became more erratic and dangerous. They started committing crimes: arson, theft, vandalism. At age 19, both girls were arrested and sent not to prison, but to Broadmoor Hospital, one of Britain's most infamous high-security psychiatric institutions. They stayed there for 11 years. Doctors, nurses, and therapists tried everything to get them to open up. But they continued their strange rituals, sometimes speaking only once a day, sometimes not at all. In their diaries, the truth came out. They were in a psychological war with each other. Jennifer wrote that June was controlling her thoughts. June wrote that Jennifer wanted her dead. They loved and hated each other, completely. Then, something terrifying happened. In 1993, after more than a decade at Broadmoor, they were approved for transfer to a lower security clinic. On the way there, Jennifer suddenly collapsed. By the time they arrived, she was dead. The cause: acute myocarditis, inflammation of the heart, but no poison, no drugs, no disease, no warning. She just died. Before her death, Jennifer had told June, "I'm going to die, you're going to speak. I have to die so you can live." And she did. After Jennifer's death, June began to speak, to doctors, to the media, to strangers. She now lives a quiet life in the UK, and she talks. No one knows how Jennifer died. Some believe it was psychosomatic. Her body simply gave up. Others believe it was part of some deeper, darker pact. One twin had to die, so the other could be free. The silent twins remain one of the strangest psychological cases in modern history. A story of isolation, obsession, and an invisible war between two minds that were never truly separate. If these stories shook you, you're not alone. The truth behind Dyatlov Pass, Hinterkaifeck, and the silent twins still hides in the shadows. More real horror is coming. Hit subscribe and tell me, what do you believe really happened? Your theory might be the only light in the dark.